Hello, I'm Chris Smith and I like to welcome our instructors to this briefing. It's nice to see so many of you here today. It looks like we've got over 75 heading towards the 80 mark. And just as a reminder that you can claim this as a CPD point. It's Wednesday, 19th of February, and I'm speaking to you live from Glasgow, in Scotland, home of PASMA's HQ. If you're watching a replay or recording, I'm not speaking to you live, and I am not an AI generation, but you will still be able to enjoy the webinar just the same. And this webinar will be available from tomorrow. For those of you who attended our last briefing in December, we listened to your feedback and I have created this to look more into some of the touch points that you advised us about. The mandatory use of TowerSure into our training courses is fast approaching, and not only will you be showing training delegates the use of TowerSure and inspecting towers, but they will also use it to access their virtual cards when they pass the course. So there's a lot to fill you in on today, but first there are a couple of things I want to mention to help you get the most out of this session. Firstly, the chat feature. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a chat icon. Use this to say hello, introduce yourself, and connect with other members. And just make sure you change the drop-down box to everyone. I think Maarten had already mentioned that earlier on in the chat, and that way your message can be seen by all. Again, I see there's a few people here. We've got visitors from Qatar, from the Middle East, and we even have some people from over the water in Ireland. Not to mention the east coast of Scotland. Good to see some of you have joined us along here today. So our team will do their best to dip in and out of the chat between presenting, but we might not always be able to respond. So if you have any questions that you really do want us to answer, use the Q&A box. You'll find the Q&A box at the bottom next to the chat icon. So don't put your questions in the chat. Make sure you drop them in the Q&A. And if I see any in there, I will be reminding you. And for those of you instructors who don't follow that, I may be deducting CPD points. And you can submit questions at any point during this briefing, and we'll answer as many as we can at the end. You can also upvote questions to help us prioritise the ones that are of most interest. I am going to preempt the common question that is confirmed that this session is being recorded and will be available from tomorrow. We'll share that with the training members and instructors. Okay, today we are going to take you through what you need to do as an instructor and get prepared for the mandatory date for use in courses. Don't worry, Karen will break this down so that what you need to do is in easy steps. Then we'll explain what MyAccessIndustry is about. And then after that, we'll return back here and we'll do a Q&A session. So before we move on, I'm going to do a quick poll. Okay, and in the poll, we have a few choices for you. Okay, just let it get down here so I can see what poll I'm going to launch. Okay, so the poll questions are, yes, I'm using TowerSure for the theory and for the practical. Yes, I'm using it for the theory, but not the practical. Not quite. I've not looked at it, but I haven't used it. And no, I haven't looked at it yet. So we'll leave this poll up for a couple of seconds more. You know, bear in mind that only I can see your answers at this moment in time, and we'll be sharing the end result shortly. Well, we're kind of heading up to almost 60% of you have answered. Okay, I'm going to leave it up for a few seconds more, see if we can get everyone filling this in. We're at 75%, and 3, and 2, and 1. Okay, well, yes, I'm using it. Seems to have taken the lead there. As you can see, using it and for the theory and practical, almost 40% of you. Yes, I'm using it for the theory and not practical. So kind of trailing behind, and you've not quite, you've looked at it, but haven't used it. So hopefully, at the end of this session, you will have gained some more information that's going to allow you to start using it in training courses. And I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions about both of the updates today. And again, if you're watching live or on the replay, we'll have a Q&A session at the end where you'll be able to understand some of the questions that have been asked during this session. I am going to hand over to Karen O'Neill now. Karen, Head of Training Administration and Delivery, to talk you through the updated training courses. Karen will be joined during this session by Dennis Seaton. Some of you may know Dennis, probably from his background in singing, where they will discuss how Sunbelt Rentals have found the use of TowerSure during training courses. So Karen, over to you.
Hi, thanks Chris, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. So we'll kick off. Last time I saw you was back in December, and I was introducing you to the new and improved Towers for Users low-level combined courses that had just been added to our online registration system. So hopefully you've at least downloaded them. If not, why not? I'm just kidding. But before we move on, I need to address the elephant in the room here. I feel we need to explain, and I'm sure you've heard through the Instructor grapevine, that we've had a few teething problems with this app. This was brought to our attention during a training committee meeting, after which we took the decision to move this briefing to today. This was to allow us to have a deep and meaningful conversation with our developers and to allow for some gentle persuasion by our very own Maarten Vries, who we'll meet later. He is head of our systems and innovations, to speed up the delivery of these fixes. So we can now say that all known bugs have been addressed and fixed. However, if you are still experiencing any technical issues, please let us know. We have report a bug form, and by completing this, it will really help us make sure that the app continues to work and record inspections. We don't know what we don't know, if you know what I mean. If as long as you fill in that bug form, we're keeping on top of any known issues. We have created an emergency TowerSure support line, which is 0800 208 8707. This will only be answered during the hours of 9 to 5 UK time. If there's no time to call, please continue with the inspection using the old style hard copy red and green records, but remember to report the issue when you're able to. With all that being said, let's move on and talk about how we can prepare for the introduction of TowerSure into our courses. So we're getting close to the deadline for you guys to start using the updated courses. It's now the 31st of March, so we've got a wee bit more time now. Even if you've already started using it, by the looks of the poll, a lot of you have, there's still very early days. We thought you could use some extra guidance on the biggest change which was made was the introduction of TowerSure, the PASMA inspection app. So I'm hoping by now you've all downloaded TowerSure onto your phone. An important point to note is that the training centre you're working for will send you an invitation to join a project, which you can then accept by following the instructions on the app. That's all you have to do in preparation for the course. It's essential you have it because on the new course, you're teaching your delegates how to use the TowerSure. So let's do a quick recap on how to accept the invitation. So when you've been added to a project by a member, as shown in our previous briefing, this automatically sends you an invitation to the project via your app. You need to accept this invitation, as being part of a project will allow you to conduct an inspection using the TowerSure label. The invitation will appear when you log into the app and you click Go to Invites and then click to accept. The app will display all the projects that you've been invited to or created. If you are an employed instructor, you will see your name on its own. If you're a freelance instructor, you should see the member who has added you to the project, then your name. Like we can see in the screen here, ABC Training, Chris Smith. For freelance instructors, you might need to nudge your regular members just to get them to add you to the console, if you give them a wee reminder and help them through. So once you've accepted the invitation, you don't need to do anything until you're conducting the course. So here's a timeline that you can see on screen showing all of the points when a delegate will interact with TowerSure. On this briefing, which is aimed at instructors, we're going to focus mostly on point 2, delegate arrival, 3, the theory session, 4, the practical session, and 6, throughout the delegate's career. The rest we covered on the briefing this morning for administrators. So before the course starts, I'll skip past this as guidance for this stage was given, as I said, to the course administrators at their briefing this morning. The short version is the training centre needs to ask the delegates to download TowerSure app before they come on the course. On arrival, everyone's downloaded the app and we're ready to go. Yeah, I know, maybe in an ideal world that would work. So for anyone who hasn't downloaded the app already, it's a good idea to display a download link in the classroom so that they have another chance to install TowerSure before the course begins. So here is one we prepared earlier. We've created a poster that you can download and print. You can either put it on the wall, laminate it, leave it on the desks, and we'll pop a link to download it in the chat, but we'll also email it later too. Point it out to delegates and ask them to download TowerSure if they haven't already. So what if you run into challenges? We've had a couple of questions about bugs or whether TowerSure is compatible with various phones, but like I mentioned earlier, as far as we understand, all known bugs and issues have been resolved, so there should be no technical problems preventing anyone downloading or using it. If that's not the case, please do use the report a bug form. The link will be popped in the chat if we haven't already. But for now, let's continue on the basis that there's no technical reason why delegates can't download TowerSure. If a delegate can't download TowerSure for other reasons, for example, like they don't know their App Store password, or you're on a site where phones aren't permitted, or if they just simply refuse to download it, it's fine. It's not mandatory for the delegates, and we don't expect you to become an IT support desk. It just means that they'll have to record a manual inspection instead on their phone. They'll also have to request a plastic card from you after the course. So remember, this is all covered in the TowerSure user guide for instructors, and there will be a link in the chat now, and we'll also email that out later too. So moving on to the theory session. You start the course as normal. During the theory session, you'll notice the whole new section on inspection and recording. You'll be talking to delegates through the pros and cons of paper records versus digital records and introducing them to TowerSure. There's a short video and 5 slides explaining how TowerSure how you can use to record inspections. These are detailed in the instructor notes to help you deliver this. I am now going to ask Instructor Seaton of Sunbelt Rentals to join me. I have a few questions for him, which hopefully he can help you guys with the theory session of the course.
Hello.
Hi Dennis, thanks for joining us.
Hi all.
So you've ran the course a few times now, haven't you?
Yeah, quite a few times since last year when it was uploaded.
Brilliant. How are you finding the theory session?
For those instructors out there, it's an extra 11 slides. So we've gone from 89 slides to 100 slides. So it's just because of the additional advice on TowerSure.
And what's your advice for instructors to get ready for the delivery of the theory session for their first time?
Well, for any new instructor, read your, it's best would be to just read your instructor notes, and that will help you. You can't really go wrong from the instructor notes, to be fair.
There should be quite a lot in there, quite detailed instructor notes this time. What's the feedback been like from the delegates?
Well, you know, human beings being human beings, some people don't like change. And to some of them, it's another app. I suspect that when we go down the route of you have to have it for your license, it might get a bit better. Some are a bit reluctant. And that's where I have to use my experience as an instructor to say, right, I'll show you on the phone when we get downstairs so you can see how it works. Because sometimes it's a bit, oh, well, my company won't allow me to have an app, which is true. So then you have to be a bit flexible. So what I do is get them to fill in the form as well as, because obviously the older guys, they don't want to deal with the apps. So unless they have to. So yeah, we just have to be a bit more flexible. Like you said, we're not an IT department, and you just have to be able to just put it across. That's
perfect.
The best way.
Well, thanks for that. I'm sure the instructors here found that really useful. If I could just ask you to switch your camera off, I'm going to come back to you a little later. Don't think you can escape. We're keeping you here. So moving on to the practical session, it's time to record your first inspection, and you'll show delegates how to follow the TowerSure's built-in checklist to make sure that the tower is safe to use. So as described on the reverse of the practical assessment record, we're now going to create an inspection of your 2-metre demonstration tower. And you'll be using the TowerSure label for this. Quick note here, we'll be sending these labels out shortly, and I know I said that the last time. We had a little issue trying to find the best way to get it to you guys, so please bear with us. We will be contacting you by email and asking you to let us know where the best place to send the labels are. We didn't want to put the onus on your training centre. So let's start the inspection. Click on the plus sign to add your tower. Excuse me. Your screen should now have the heading New Tower. Select this tower as part of a project and then click on the word project. This will open your projects, a lot of projects, and you should click on your name from the list of projects. If this is the first time you're using the app, there may only be one project listed. As you can see from the image, Chris has 2 projects, one from his employer and the other from a training member he's on loan to. So you can see that the On Loan Centre has their member name first and the instructor second. This should make it easier for Chris to record the inspection for either of them. So once you have selected the project, which is you are taken back to the new tower screen where we can see that this tower is now part of a project and the project name. Now let's add the site, and what we mean by site is where the inspection will take place. So click on site, enter the name of the member for whom you're conducting the training course for, and the approximate location. So the example shown here is PASMA, the member name, and the location is Glasgow. You can then enter the postcode or place name, and the app will use the geolocation software to record your location. So as you can see, we've been pinpointed on the map. And then we just click Add Site. Now we need you to select the type of tower you'll be inspecting. Excuse me. We will select Mobile Access Tower, and we've now completed the information required for who will be inspecting the tower, what type of tower, and where the inspection was carried out. Now we need to link the TowerSure label to this tower. So please note this will only appear if you have been part of a project. So scan the QR code, and when you click Scan QR code, the app will use your camera function on your phone. So you may be asked to give permission to the app to allow it access to your camera function. You should only have to do this once. And you'll notice that a number will appear just below the heading Inspection Record Label. This is the label ID number. Your inspection will be linked by this number to the label, and now we can click Continue. Excuse me. We're now ready to conduct the inspection. So using the platform height slider, select the working platform height of the tower and indicate if it will be assembled indoors or outdoors, and then click Continue to Inspection. So let's begin the inspection by following the guide checklist. Be sure to click the green check mark to confirm each statement. We start with the ground conditions. If the tower is level, is the tower stabilised as per the instruction manual? Are all braces positioned and secured? Are all frames the correct size and type? Are all of the platforms positioned correctly? Do all platforms have double guardrails? And are toe boards correctly fitted? And finally, is the tower the correct height for the task? Excuse me. So, sorry, I got a bit of a dry throat today. To complete the inspection, you should take a minimum of 2 pictures of the tower. It should show the full tower, including stabilisers and the overhead area. So click the grey box. The app will open up your camera and allow you to take the pictures, remembering to capture the full tower with stabilisers. Once you're happy with the picture, you can just click Complete. So your inspection is now complete, and you can now view this at any time whilst the inspection is active on this page. Click on the inspection link and you can view the full inspection. Notice that TowerSure has recorded the date and time of your inspection and when it expires. By recording the date and time, it allows TowerSure to send you reminders that the tower needs to be re-inspected. And it's worth noting here that if you click on the download link, you can generate a PDF and full inspection that can be sent to whom the inspection was carried out for. So if you can demonstrate that to your delegates. We're now ready to demonstrate to the delegates how to mark the tower as dismantled. So we simply just click Dismantled. You'll be asked to confirm, so we just click to confirm. And now that the demonstration tower has been marked dismantled, this will no longer appear in your My Tower section. However, you'll still be able to find this tower using the search function in the app. Where you can search your previously dismantled towers by entering the tower ID, the project name, the site, or even the person or organisation for which the tower was assembled. It's quite a useful function. So moving on to the delegates inspection. Delegates should have already downloaded TowerSure. We will check this in the morning when they arrived. Every delegate will use TowerSure to record their own inspection of a tower that they've helped build. They won't be using the label as demonstrated by you. For them to use the label, they would have had to have been added to a project. This is something that we are working on behind the scenes. We will develop a method by which the candidate will automatically be added to a project, and this will most likely happen when they've been added to a booking. So bear with us, it's a work in progress and we are taking it one step at a time to make sure we don't miss anything that once you guys are using could recommend to us. So to make it easier for you, we've asked that you demonstrate how to use the label. However, when it comes time for the delegate to complete their inspection, they will use a 9-digit tower ID. We'll start that by clicking the plus sign. This time, we won't select this tower as part of a project. We'll click on the tower location and we'll ask the delegate to enter your training centre name and location. So we can see here the example is PASMA, Glasgow. But you guys explain to the delegate that this would normally be the exact location of the tower. So now select your tower type. As before, we select mobile access tower, but there are different types of tower listed there in your drop down. But for this example, we're using mobile access tower, just your standard tower. Tower assembled on behalf of, this should be the training centre name and location. Again, we've just put PASMA in Glasgow, but explain to the delegate in real life this would normally be the company or person you're inspecting the tower for, and then we click continue. Delegates should now select the platform height of the tower and select if the tower is indoors or outdoors, and then click continue. Delegates should follow the checklist just as you showed them before, making sure to click the green check mark to confirm each statement. Please remind the delegate to take at least 2 pictures of the tower, just like you did, showing the full tower including stabilisers and the overhead area. And we just click to complete inspection. The candidates will then see their inspection along with a 9-digit tower ID. When they're back in the classroom, have the delegates open the TowerSure app on their device to copy that 9-digit tower ID code and enter it into the delegate booklets as shown. Only at this point should they mark the tower as dismantled. Delegates should not mark the tower as dismantled until they're back in the classroom. It just makes it easier for you guys to get that 9-digit number. If you or anyone else are unable to use TowerSure, or if you're at a site where you cannot use, like we said before, a phone or have no connection, then you need to submit the hard copy tower inspection record the same way we done before TowerSure. Failure to record an inspection will result in a major non-conformance, as there is no evidence that an inspection took place. If you are not already using, please start using TowerSure right away. This is the preferred way to record inspections and will become mandatory. Don't forget that we have a step-by-step instructions guide on each stage of TowerSure and the user instructions. You can find these on the online registration system under downloads. And I also recommend you watch this video I'm going to show you next, which takes you through what the delegates have to do during a practical session. So I need to thank Mr. Steve Booker and his team at Kentech for recording this for us.
Right guys, today I want to go through TowerSure and how it can assist us as instructors with our training courses. So when we have our delegates doing their training courses, what we need to do is to get them to inspect the tower and show them how it can work. So the first thing I want to do, you've got the apps open. So when you open the app, you see in the bottom right hand corner, there is a blue circle with a plus button inside it. So if you hit that plus button, now straight away you'll see that it says tower is part of a project. If you untick that, because we're not part of a project, now the tower location, you can enter the location of where the training is taking place. The next question it's asking you is what type of tower it is. So if you click on that, you see there's a drop down box. Now you see it's got several different types of tower. You want, in this particular case, which is a 3-meter standard tower, you want to click the mobile access tower. Now you see the next thing, it gives you a unique 9-digit number. Now that is the unique 9-digit number that we'll ask our delegates to record on their delegate booklet, and that can be linked back to this inspection, and it will be a way of proof that they carried out an inspection. Yeah, so it gives a paper chain behind it, if you like. Now if we look down, as we go down, if you scroll down a little bit, and you come down and you see we've got the tower assembled on behalf of. So in this case we're just going to write in their training, but it could be on behalf of your company or the organisation you're building the tower for. So the default one for us when we're doing a training course will just be training. If you go continue, you'll see now you've got a few more questions. So basic one, did you assemble the tower? Now on a training course, of course, the people that we're asking to inspect it will be the people that have just built it. So in this case, we're going to say, yes, it is us, and we're going to enter our details. Now, if you've already got this tag and you have recognition with PASMA as a user already, your details should already be in there. But for new users that haven't already been certified under the PASMA Tower for Users course or other appropriate course, they enter their details here. Then it asks the platform height. Now in this case, the tower we're inspecting today is a 3-metre tower. So if you set that to 3 metres, and of course that can go right up to your 12 plus metres, and you know the next question is the tower indoors or outdoors? So in this case, we're indoors. Now again, if you go down to continue to inspection, yeah, go down, and now you will have a series of questions. So the first question there is, you'd like to read it out for me, Jason?
Are ground conditions suitable? All caster brakes locked and wheels in contact with the ground.
So in this case, all caster brakes are on, they're all in contact, the tower's been levelled and true. So we can answer a tick to that. And basically work through all the inspections here. So as you work through it, if you answer positively to these questions, so is the tower level? We've levelled it already, so we can go okay with that one. Next question is it stabilised? Again, stabiliser is all attached, so we can answer yes to that one. Again, all the horizontal and diagonal braces, guardrails, etc., are they all in the right position and connected correctly? We've already just finished an inspection on this tower, and as such, we know we've checked all these, so they're okay, so we can go through and click that one. Again, spigot locks. So again, with this one, spigot locks are all in. We can say okay with that one. And again, numerous other questions as it works through the various aspects of an inspection. So if we work through that, and if you just go okay with all that, yeah, keep going. Yeah, last question 9. Right, you see here, it now details your details and the tower, but you've got a grey square with a plus button inside it. If you hit the plus button, it should go straight to your camera. There you go. Right, if you'd like to stand back and take a photograph of the tower itself, try and get everything in from top to bottom. Now you've captured that.
Yep.
Now bear in mind, you can use that, you can do multiple photographs here. So if you go use photo, you see the same grey square is still there. So if you need to take photographs of various aspects or anything you're concerned about, you can continue to take photographs of it and add them to the actual inspection. But assuming that's okay, we can then hit complete. And the next question it asks is for you to agree to the terms and conditions of the app. You go yes. And there you go. It's now registered that that tower has been inspected. You've got your unique 9-digit number to record. Now every one of your delegates on a training course will go back and they'll have their own individual 9-digit number that's recorded on the delegate form. And when they're finished and they brought the tower down, if you go back into that particular tower, now so click on the tower you've just seen there that's been accepted. Now it'll ask you, do you want to re-inspect the tower? If you go right down to the bottom, you notice it labels the location, but right at the bottom it's got markers dismantled. So once the tower's finished, we get them to do the inspection, we get them to register it on TowerSure. Once they've disassembled the tower and everything's finished, we get them to go back into the app, mark, walk down, and then it should say, right, there's no towers in your area. And that's as simple as it is to use TowerSure on a tower course.
At this point, I would like to bring Dennis back, if that's okay, Dennis, and I'll ask you to switch your camera and microphone back on to join me for some questions about the practical session.
No problem.
So, was it tricky to get your head around the new practical session at first?
Well, it's for me, it's a game changer because it helps everybody understand what they need to do. And also, a picture paints 1,000 words. And although we've got AI, why would you want to AI a tower? Just making sure you got 2 photos is enough, to be fair.
Yeah. What's your advice for instructors getting ready to deliver the new practical session for the first time?
Be open to it because people don't like change. You know, that physical inspection record that people like to see is still the one that kind of that everybody wants to see. But technology is technology, and just practice with the app. Just get used to it. If you don't practice, it's the 5 P's of instructors. Preparation, practice, perfect, and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's again, it's just incorporated. It doesn't take long, and actually, those who are what I've found in delivering it, you stop them, everybody, and say, right, at this point, let's show you how this works. And the response is slightly different to in the morning, because in theory, they're looking at it going, nah, that ain't gonna work. And then when they see it in action, it kind of changes their mind.
Change their mind.
And also it helps them prove that the equipment that they had was fit for purpose. So that's where the game changer is.
Absolutely. Did you find that the majority of delegates are happy to use TowerSure to record the inspection?
Yeah, those who were able to download the app, again, it's trying to overcome that. You got to download another app. But then again, be prepared to use your own phone to show them. And then that way it helps ease them into it. Because it's a bit like stepping into the unknown, isn't it?
Yeah.
Seeing that physical green inspection record or red inspection record is totally different to seeing it on the app.
Yeah.
But then if you're a project manager, it helps you as well,
Via the console, definitely. Yeah. So what's the feedback's been back from the delegates? Have you had?
Again, it's, changing hearts and minds, isn't it? Just getting them to understand it's benefiting them, because what they're showing is this is how my tower looked. And as an instructor, you're trying to encourage them to use the app. Again, I when I first started and I was doing my 2-meter build, I'd forgotten to put the toe boards on, and I thought, why you're putting in there that you've got toe boards, and you look at the image and you go, oh. Oops. So yeah. And sometimes it's easier to show them how to put the toe boards on, especially with the toe board connectors, at 2 meters than 4 meters, even though you've shown them on the ground as well. But yeah, again, it's a massive plus for me, and the delegates do come back and go, wow, that I can go back to work and say, this is how it works.
It works. Thanks again, Dennis. That's been very useful, giving the instructors an insight how you've found TowerSure.
Yeah.
So, guys, now we have the practical session complete. We're on to after the course. So after passing the course, delegates will now get a virtual card via the TowerSure app. However, we are currently still printing cards, so you'll get both at this time. Delegates can only get access to the virtual card in TowerSure or via the website once they have their certificate number. So I don't want to steal any of George's thunder here. George will explain this in greater detail, how all this works, and maybe even give you some hints and tips in his briefing in a couple of weeks. There's no urgency for you to move to virtual cards, as you still have an option at the minute to opt in. This will become opt-out on the 31st of March, but then you'll still have a little longer before it becomes mandatory. Until you make the switch, we'll continue to send you the printed cards. But remember, after the 31st of March, if you still want the printed cards, you will need to opt out. But as I say, George will speak about this. There's lots more that we'd like to tell you about the virtual cards, but George will cover that in his briefing in more detail. So for now, that's the basics of what you need to know. The last point in the timeline covers the years after the course ends or through their career. We believe TowerSure, like Dennis had said there, is a game changer for tower safety, and we want more and more organisations using it to manage inspections. All through our courses, we talk about competence. Without going into too much detail, you guys know this off by heart. The Advisory Committee of Work at Height Training has given a definition of competence, previously been defined in other regulations as simply a combination of training, technical knowledge and/or experience. The candidates, by successfully completing the PASMA course, can demonstrate training and technical knowledge. We've never been able to capture actual experience, and this is where TowerSure comes into play in a major way, as everyone who uses TowerSure will now be able to demonstrate their experience via this app. In future, we will create additional functionality. Like all apps, it will evolve. You may require a subscription for the additional functionalities, but don't worry, all of today's functionality will remain free. TowerSure helps improve tower safety in workplaces where it's used, and that's why it's so important that it's embedded into our courses. So thank you for supporting us on that mission. So please inspire your delegates, like Dennis has, to take TowerSure back to their workplace and talk to their colleagues about how it can change tower safety for the better. This is part of your responsibility as an instructor, and we want to see them using TowerSure to inspect and record every tower they build for as long as they hold a current PASMA qualification. So just a quick update on the additional courses. These will now all have TowerSure added to them by the end of March and will be available to download. So thank you for your time today. But before I go, one word of caution. Don't wait until the 31st of March, which isn't that far off. Take action today and you'll be ready for the deadline. So download the TowerSure onto your phone, download the new courses and read the instructor notes, practice delivering the theory session, role play the practical session and watch the Chemtech video again, and you're ready to go. Remember the advice that Dennis shared earlier. It is a big change, but you'll get the hang of it. And in the meantime, we're always here to help. So I'm now going to pass you back to Chris.
I think we're going to say pass the duchy back to Chris there, Dennis on. Thanks, Karen and Dennis. Really interesting update on the use of TowerSure. Quite a lot to take in there. Now you know what TowerSure is and how to prepare for your training courses, ensuring that all delegates, where possible, have downloaded TowerSure. Remember, you can always still use the green and red tags. So there'll be situations where, I think Karen covered that there might be situations where you don't, and people who don't have access to phones. We had one from earlier on today where it's in a prison site. So you can't use mobile devices here. Always revert back to the paper format, green and red tags. So as Karen mentioned earlier on, so for you, do your 2-metre build and use the TowerSure label. And when the delegates have completed their build, they record the 9-digit number on the delegate booklet. I put a few questions in there. So for any freelance instructors, please remind your training centres to invite you to projects. That's really important. They have to create the project and invite you. So we want to push that back. So you go and ask your training centres who are engaging with you to add you to the projects. And remember, they should be putting their training centre name first, followed by your name. And remember, when the course is finished, they'll access their virtual cards on TowerSure, and this will be covered in the briefing on the 4th of March that George Lopez is going to be delivering. I know there's a lot of information covered there, but remember, this is being recorded. You can always refer back to it later. And please don't just pick up the phone and call us or send in emails. Refer back to the recording. There's a lot of information on there, like where you can gain access to your 9-digit number, what you should be doing as an instructor, and so on. Well, Karen, you thought you were putting your feet up, but you'll have to wait just a little bit longer. Karen, well, you're going to be joined by Maarten de Vries. And for those of you who don't know, Maarten is our Head of Operations, Systems and Innovations, and he's been involved in most of what you use every day on the PASMA website and the online registration system. It's his fault. But what is my access industry, I hear you ask? Well, here to explain in interview style are Karen and Maarten. Over to you guys.
Hi Maarten, thanks for joining us. So Chris stole my first question. What is accessindustry.org?
Right, okay, so just to prevent any confusion, My Access Industry is something completely different from TowerSure. We are just using this opportunity to let you know that this facility will soon become available. My Access Industry will replace all the login pages of our current and future member-facing applications, not just for PASMA, but also for Ladder Association and Atlas. And it will also be a portal where you will be able to find links to all our applications, such as the online registration systems.
So how does it work, Maarten? So
once it is enabled, when you want to access any of our applications, you will be redirected to my.accessindustry.org, where you then will be able to log in. As soon as you have, then you get redirected back to the application where you began, and you will be able to use it. The biggest benefit is that you will only need a single set of credentials to access all relevant applications. And also, once you have logged into one application, you are automatically logged in all of them. It makes things a lot easier. Also, if you're working on your own PC, you can choose to remain logged in. That means that each time you go to any of your applications, you don't need to log in again. It's really fairly similar to things like Google account, where you can log into your Gmail or YouTube or Google Play, for example.
So you mentioned account there. Do we need an account for this?
Yeah, that's right. So the very first time you are redirected, you are asked to create an account, and all we need is your name, your email address, and optionally a mobile number. We do recommend the latter because it gives more options for us to send you two-factor authentication code, which is also new. And after you've confirmed your account, you're good to go.
Brilliant. So you mentioned two-factor authentication there. Can you explain what that is and why we need it?
Yeah, so multi-factor authentication is really becoming the norm when you're logging into any online applications. It adds a much needed extra layer of security. It's very easy to use, and it works very much like many other applications that use it, and you may indeed already be quite familiar with how it works. So when we need to confirm it's really you, you will either get an email or a text if you prefer, with a 1x 6-digit passcode, which you then need to provide to complete your registration or login. Again, if it is safe enough to do so, you can opt for the system not to ask for your code again for up to 90 days. Incidentally, if you choose to log out of all your applications on all your machines, which you can do, the two-factor authentication is also reset, and you will also be asked to provide two-factor authentication if you move to another computer or to a different internet connection.
So I know you briefly mentioned it at the beginning there, but which systems will make use of this?
Well, eventually all our member-facing systems, including the ones we are currently working on and planning for the future. It will soon go live for the online registration systems, for example, and there will also be a new Instructor CPD system, which will be introduced on the 4th of March. That will use it too.
Brilliant. Where will users go if they have any questions or encounter any problems with it?
So while we are developing our new applications, we are also in the process of revamping our support. All our online applications will have the usual online manuals, where you will be able to find everything you need to know to learn how to use it, but also how to fix any common problems. If you can't find the answer there will be a form you can then fill in to raise a support ticket with us. For mission critical issues, we also provide a phone number. But all of that will be made available to you by the time we are planning to go live.
So you mentioned go live, Maarten. I'm going to ask you the magic question. When will we go live?
Well, as I mentioned, in a couple of weeks' time, on the 4th of March, when we are having our next briefings, we will introduce you to our new CPD system, which will use this. So that will be the first bit of technology that is going to use MyAccessIndustry, and then more applications will follow very soon, specifically the online registration system, which is ready to go. But as I say, we will announce this well in advance, so you will be ready to use it.
Brilliant. So just to summarise, if I have this correct, just make sure myaccessindustry.org is an integrated single sign-on service and hub for digital member services developed by PASMA to allow users to access various platforms, including the online registration system, the members area of the website, and future systems like you mentioned, CPD. Thank you, Maarten. I am now going to hand you back to Chris.
All right, a lot of chat there, Karen. All at the end, did you take a breath? Thanks, Maarten, and thanks, Karen. Quite a lot to take in, and bear in mind, this is just for information at this moment in time, so there'll be more details coming in that. So I just want to give you an insight as to what's coming. Now it's time to answer your questions, and can I ask your presenters to keep the cameras on? Thanks. We're going to have Karen and Maarten. I'm not sure if Dennis has managed to get to the car yet. I know the building that he was in was closing up, and he was frantically trying to get out and get into his car, maybe a line for his next song. And I see we have got Rhona with us today. And Rhona, you've been keeping an eye on the Q&A box throughout this session. I'm sure there are loads of questions we're going to get asked.
Busy already, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more getting fired in now. So let's get started on the ones that we've got, because there was some questions that we already got on the registration form for this event, as well as the ones that are 30 questions currently sitting open. So one that's been asked a few times, Karen, I'm going to give to you, is just to confirm, do instructors, do they have to perform two different inspections, one for the 3T and one for an AGR tower, or is one inspection in TowerSure enough?
One inspection, currently one inspection is enough. That's all we had recorded before. Although you would do the 2 inspections using 3T and AGR, either or. It would be great if you did 2, but we're only asking to see 1 because that's all we've had in the past anyway.
Can I say what might be good there? Because if you've got a number of people on the training course, you might have, say, half a dozen or 8 people. Half of them do 3T, half of them do AGR. That way you get in a mix.
Yep. And Chris, since you've started speaking there, I'm going to stick with you. But I've got someone asking about when the instructor's doing the demo tower, so it's up to 2 meters with 1
Yeah.
stabilizer attached as our guidance, I believe. But when you are using TowerSure, it does ask you to confirm that all stabilizers are attached. So
Yeah.
are they okay to mark yes, even
Yeah,
though?
because all stabilizers are attached to the home, because that's what that's me to do. So are all stabilizers attached? Yes, because the guidance that we've given you on the back end of the practical form states it's built up to 2 meters, including 1 stabilizer. If we then change the guidance to then say you need to add all 4 stabilizers, make sure you read it and follow that.
Okay, thank you. Karen, one question about the TowerSure label. Is it just, so the TowerSure labels, they are grey and red, aren't they? The grey side is check to use this tower, and the red side is, have you got one there?
Yeah, I've got
That's
one
good
here.
thing. Okay, is the red side
Oh,
is
right,
do
yeah.
not use.
Yeah.
Does the instructor, is the red side demonstrated at any point? Is there anything they need to do on that?
No, we don't, but they can point it out to the candidates so that it is like they did before with the green and red tags. They don't have to do anything with it, but they can point it out that it is do not use and put it against the tower. And if it's scanned, and when someone, they don't have to have TowerSure to scan these labels either. You just go past with your camera phone, put it above the QR code like you would anything else, and that will tell them the information as to why they're not to use it. Just like this one tells them the information to say that it's good to go.
Okay. And sticking to that same sort of topic, this 9-digit code, can you just like
Yeah,
reiterate in just as simply as possible, what is this 9-digit
sure.
code? Where do you find it? What do you
So
do with it?
the label ID is on here. You won't be able to see it properly, so that when the instructor demonstrates, that number will be the number that the instructor gets. However, when the delegate completes it, they're not using the label, they get a 9-digit tower ID which identifies them with that tower, and it links that tower to the inspection. Each delegate will have a different 9-digit number, and that will all appear on their app. So like we shown before, once they've completed the inspection, they'll see that 9-digit tower ID, and that's what they use to complete into the delegate booklet. That's how we'll know that that inspection's been carried out. We are, as auditors, we have access to the behind the scenes of TowerSure, and when we enter that 9-digit ID, we can see that that tower's been done. So that's the delegate's evidence, the training centre's evidence that that inspection has been carried out.
Okay, so it's only the delegate that has access to
Only
that
the
9-digit
delegate.
code, so
Yes.
that's why they need to get it. I noticed a suggestion, I think it was from Debbie Forbes, saying she gets the delegates to screenshot the 9-digit code, which
yeah.
is maybe just reinforcing like it's important.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I mean, they can always get back to it, but it's best that they don't dismantle it until they get into the classroom and complete that, lift the number from their app.
Fair point. And we've had someone, an instructor, asking, could there please be a box on either the course record or the practical sheet for recording the demonstration tower reference? Is that something you've thought of?
No, so that they can put the tower out. The thing is, once that's dismantled, that once they release that, that can then be used on another tower. So even if you put that tower ID number in it, we won't be able to search it, or you won't be able to find it, because once it's dismantled, it's gone, and it will now be attached to another tower. But it's not a bad idea to have some reference there to say that they've done it, to confirm that they built it.
Okay.
And the member will see it because they're attached to a project. The member will see in their inspections that that 2-meter tower has been built. So if the instructor was ever questioned on it or asked about it, they can always go back to the console and bring it back from there, or the instructor can bring it back from their app.
Brilliant. Maarten, Karen just mentioned the word dismantle there, and it's brought me down to a question that I remembered we were getting asked. I'll start by asking you, is there a limit to how many times you can use those labels, the QR code on them?
No.
No.
So you can use them only of course, once at a time because it's attached to a tower. But as Karen said, when you dismantle the tower, you can reuse it, and that is unlimited.
And so someone has asked if the delegate has used a tag but not dismantled the tower using the app, is there a way they can close out the inspection from the console? Am I right in thinking they wouldn't be doing that because the delegate wouldn't be using the label? That's why we've got the 9-digit
right.
code. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
You
learning.
can always, if you have it inspected the tower, that tower will always be in your app until you dismantle it.
Yeah,
And even
and-
then, you can still find it.
Yeah, and they'll still get, the delegate will get reminders to say
Yeah.
when it gets to 7 days it needs to be re-inspected or dismantled, so they'll get push notifications letting them know about that's there.
Brilliant. And because we had one question, I think it just links in with your unlimited use point where someone was asking about the price of the labels, saying that's a major issue for people adopting TowerSure. I would just make the point that you're taking into account that those labels are reusable. It's not something you have to buy for every tower. Do you agree with that? Yeah.
Yep.
Hi, Dennis, by the way.
And of course, Rhona, we're
location.
also
Hello.
providing those labels to our instructors. They're all getting 2 labels each.
Yes, and that brings me on to you mentioned freelance instructors in your last link, because people were asking about what if they've not been added to a project. But also, can you confirm, will all freelance instructors be receiving their own TowerSure labels, or are they using the training centre's labels?
It'll go straight, yeah. So we have your details on the online registration system. We need your email address, or you use your email address to log in. So we have notification of that there. So we'll be using that email address to send you a form. And that form is asking basically where you would like us to send the labels to. But I just want to, even if you want it sent to your home address, that's absolutely fine, or a member, we can do that for you. Once we've done that, we will remove that data. We won't hold it any longer than we need to. Once we've used it, it'll be gone.
And Chris, just to maybe expand on what you said earlier, if you are a freelance instructor and you've got a course coming up and the training centre that you're working for has not set this up yet, say we're still in the next few weeks, there is a situation where a freelance instructor could one day be delivering a course using TowerSure, the next day delivering it without TowerSure, isn't there?
Yeah, that's inevitable. What's going to happen, and you know, as a freelance instructor, you're really relying on the training centre that you're working for has started using the portal, and they've started using the console and uploading you as part of the project. It's going to happen. There's going to come a point where it's not going to be an option. And I know there's been a couple of questions been asked in here if I want to continue delivering the PASMA training course in the same format using paper. Well, at some point you're going to have to use TowerSure, and you've got delegates going to have to use TowerSure. It's going to be driven forward. And again, if delegates don't bring their phone, you can revert back to paper. You know, and if you've got a mixture of people on the course, some are using TowerSure, some are not using TowerSure. Again, when we do the briefing in a couple of weeks' time, the only way they're going to be getting their cards in the future is through TowerSure. So really, I can't emphasize enough, you as a freelancer and as an employed instructor want to be pushing this back to your training centres and saying, look, you really need to set this up as projects and having this in there. This is the way forward. This is where we're going. So yeah, you currently, yes, the deadline's the 31st of March. You've got some time. As Karen said at the end of her session here, don't wait. Push it back. Get them adding you as part of a project just now and get used to delivering it. And again, something that Dennis mentioned, I think he only mentioned 3 Ps and not 5, but it doesn't matter, Dennis, I'll let you off with it. It's about reading the instructor notes. Get the instructor notes, read them. That's going to give you the detail that you need to be able to deliver the presentation. We're not asking you to do it verbatim, but at least if you read it and continue reading it, at some point, you're going to be able to get this presentation and know exactly what you need to be saying as the slide comes up. But we all have to provide notes. We all have our, our prompts that we do. And even when we're delivering these webinars, we don't have it memorized. We have to have prompts along the way. Same as people that read the news, they don't make it up in their head. They've got an auto cue in front of them. I don't have an auto cue. PASMA won't go to that far, so I've got pen and paper.
Might get you an auto cue, Chris, and you can stick to the script for future. One thing you said in there, Karen, I'm just going to pick you up on it because Chris, you're talking about the deadline being the 31st of March. Am I picking up that that is a little extension we've sneaked in because it was
Yeah.
1st of March, wasn't it? And we've
Yeah.
moved it on.
Just to make sure that we covered all the bases, got all the bugs sorted, any fixes. If there's anything new, what we wanted to do is get out there about the report a bug form. We need to please to fill that in if there's any hassle. Like we mentioned, there is an emergency number in case of emergencies. For example, you're on a course and no one can download the app or anything like that. Don't panic, just go back to the hard copy, but please tell us that something's happened. It could be across the board or it could be just for you. We just don't know. And like I says, we don't know what we don't know.
Thank you. And Dennis, I was going to ask you, when Chris was talking there, he was saying about when virtual cards come in across the board, that will be the game changer. And you touched on that too. Do you agree with that, what Chris was saying there?
Yeah. Again, you will get situations where some sites, like if you're doing training in a prison, you can't take your phone in. So you're going to have to adapt that training to that specific point. And it's just you as an instructor to manage that, to be fair. Can't emphasize it. I've been singing its praises since it first came out. And even though we had the bugs, it's a game changer for the assembler, because obviously now they can prove how their tower was assembled and where it was assembled. That's the big thing for me.
And when you do have people on a course who don't want to or can't download TowerSure, I'm just wondering about, so say you've got an example here, someone's asked a question about, as an example, if you've got 8 delegates on the course, 2 don't have a mobile phone, so they can't install TowerSure. Do you manage that as, some people are doing the hard copy inspections, some are using TowerSure, or would you just say, well, we're all going to do the hard copy because...
Well, to be fair, right now I've been getting them all to do the hard copy in the classroom and then going downstairs and using the TowerSure app. So therefore, you've covered both bases. So those people, they will go away knowing, well, I've got to do it up one way or the other. But then obviously when we all go digital, they won't have any choice, will they?
They won't, and hopefully people see, like, when you do experience the digital version, like it's helping you. It's not just, it's not just the same thing, but in digital, it's got the checklists and it's got the guidance for you, so you're not having to remember everything.
Yeah, again, people like to see that physical thing across a yard, the red and the green. That's until it's a slow burner. Obviously, the younger generation, not a problem. Companies, some of the companies won't allow apps, and some companies give phones that don't accept apps. So we've got to just work with that for now, And once again, we've also got to think, even though we've sent out joining instructions to say download the app, trust me, people turn up, I never got that instruction, I never saw it. So again, we're just gonna have to manage it. I just use my own phone and take it from there, really.
That sounds like you've got a good strategy. And on the administrator briefing this morning, we shared some resources like a poster and things that you can put in the classroom so that when inevitably people have ignored your joining instructions, you've got something else that makes it easy for them. It's not unexpected.
Yeah, and they can do it in the break anyway. So
of course, yeah. And PASMA, we are happy if there's anything else we can produce, like any FAQs or materials or posters or whatever that will help. Dennis or anyone can let us know what would be helpful for that.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Karen, I had a question for you. What was it? Oh, e-learning. Are we updating the e-learning course?
We will be. Yep. They'll be getting updated as well because they're a wee bit still Mr. Smith's voice that you can hear there. We're changing. I've had a few comments about the Scottish accent, but we are updating it.
That's been updated. All of this, the additional script content has been written for the TowerSure additional parts of the courses, and we're going to be using an AI generated voiceover for that, and it won't be me. Thank you. A lot of you be here. Glad to hear.
And is that also the same case for the additional, the BS 1139 Part 6 courses? Will they be updated to incorporate TowerSure, or have they been already?
No, they will be by the end of March. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So I've given myself a bit of time to get that done.
Win-win. Okay. All right, Chris, I know we've touched on this a couple of times, but we have had a lot of questions with different examples of occasions when you can't use TowerSure. And I do just want to run through a few with you just because there may be slight differences. And I know the overall message is you can revert back to the paper form, can't you? But so that applies in situations when delegates just don't bring a phone or they don't want to use TowerSure. They don't know their password. They just use you can just for that delegate use the paper
Yes, you
version.
can.
Yeah.
I think we've been saying this all along, Rhona. You know, there's some delegates that they won't use the phone to download an app because it works. It's for their work and it's their own personal mobile phone. We're going to come across these situations. Yes, and you can mix it. You can have some people who are using paper and some people who are using the digital format. Look, eventually we're going to go full on digital. Eventually we're going down the route of your digital devices that the delegates will be using, given to them by the training centre. And in that point, they'll be using a device which is not theirs, it'll be someone else's. And yeah, we'd still like them to download TowerSure on their own phones because it's going to work for their advantage. And I said this, in this morning's briefing, even for you as an instructor, the selling point for those delegates is that when they have previously built a tower and they've recorded the inspection, it's done on paper. And they maybe said, oh, if I leave this up on here, somebody can come in and remove a guardrail or take a stabiliser off or take some of those braces out. TowerSure is a game changer in that front. It means that delegate, when they've taken a picture of their mobile access tower, the minute they leave it, it's date, time, location stamp. That is their backing for that tower was inspected by them and they left it in a good working condition. So TowerSure in that sense is a game changer because they've never been able to do that before. They've only had paper. So now they've gone to record it and have peace of mind that if someone does come in and take a stabiliser or a brace or a guardrail off, that it wasn't them.
Okay.
So
What would
can I-
you? Oh, sorry, Maarten.
Yeah, there's one bit you also mentioned, when there is not an internet connection and so on. TowerSure actually is designed so that it can work when there is no internet connection. However, the caveat is that you log in and tick the box that says remain logged in before you enter the area where you don't have the internet connection. So providing you do that and you do not then remove TowerSure from your previous apps, if you leave it running in the background, as it were, then you should just be able to open it and it would work even if you're offline. Now, for delegates, that doesn't make much sense because most of them, if they come to a training course and there is no Wi-Fi or no internet connection, then they won't be able to download it or to log in or to register or what's it. Nor will they get their 9-digit code because that will only appear once there is an internet connection again. But an instructor should be able to demonstrate it even if there is not an internet connection. As I say, providing that they make sure they log in when they do have a connection and then leave it open. Don't remove it from the previously used apps. Then it should work all the time. I don't remove the app from my list of previously used apps, so it always works whether I have an internet connection or not.
That's a good distinction, Maarten. Thank you. I hadn't quite grasped that myself, so that's helpful. Chris, sticking with the theme of can't use TowerSure, what would you say to an instructor who would just prefer to continue using the old tower inspection records hard copy and would just prefer not to switch to TowerSure? Is that an option that's still open?
At this moment in time, yes, but we are driving more towards digitalisation and sustainable methods of recording and using inspection records. As an instructor, we have created a training course that encompasses TowerSure as well as the old analog way of recording. Eventually, it's only going to be digital. You're going to have to move with the times, unfortunately.
Okay. And on sites where mobile phones are banned, and I guess I'm thinking not just of maybe a training course is taking place on a site where phones are banned, but also you might have delegates who work all of the time on sites where phones are banned. In either of those situations, you could just switch to the paper version, couldn't you? If you've got a group of delegates saying, I'll never be able to use TowerSure because I can't take my phone on site, you could make that decision for them.
You could, but there's going to be a time where they might move job and they may have to work in a location that's got the access to all of that. I mean, Dennis mentioned there earlier on doing training courses in prisons. Unless they're doing a lifetime stretch, they make it after a couple of years. So the TowerSure app's going to work for them. They're going to be in there for it unless they've managed to use it to build a tower and climb over the wall. So yeah, you really need to be driving this message forward. At some point in the not too distant future, TowerSure is going to be the only option available on the majority of our training courses. But yet there'll be situations on sites where you just can't use it. The paper format will always still be there. It'll be used in that format. But if you're going to continue to be using paper in all of your training courses when we do our annual audits, we're going to pick up on it. And we may even want to come and do unannounced audits.
Okay, final question on this theme. We've had a question from, we've got quite a few international members on the call today, and we had a question from one saying in certain parts of the world where English isn't spoken as widely as it is here, if we've got people who can't even write their name in English, are they expected to use TowerSure? Would you have any advice for international instructors in that situation?
Maarten, can you help us out here with regards to what that means as far as recording all that information, their own data information on TowerSure, names and such? Because some people I know in particular parts of the world, they only have a name. They don't have any more than just one name. They may be just as a family name or just, just wondering if you can give us some advice on that.
Yeah, so unfortunately, at the moment, the system does still request two names, but we are looking into that and see whether or not we can just merge that into a single name, because we are always looking to improve things. So I've been looking at for all our applications. Obviously, before we went abroad, most of our systems were just asking for first name and second name, or first name and last name. Mm-hmm. But we are looking into that. We are also thinking in the future of language versions for the app and for the console. So these are things that are all on our wish list. That wish list is long, so we need to go and try and parcel that up and see where we are going to get the biggest kind of benefit for our money, and put these things into place. In terms of the actual question about, do they have to use it if they can't even spell the name? Of course not. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to force them to do something that they're physically not to do. And in that case, but then you also need to think through the process of how you then allow them to record an inspection, because I don't know if in a particular country that is legislation to record an inspection. Certainly from a PASMA point of view, obviously we say yes to be a competent tower user. You need to know how to and will have to complete an inspection record. But as I say, that is something that you just need to perhaps have a chat with our head of internationalization about, and see if he can bring that back to Chris and and find a solution to the problem. I assume that this is not going to happen too often, but sorry.
Whilst we're on the subject of names, something I mentioned in the administration one earlier is when if the delegates are downloading the app at your centre, if you can make sure that the name they register on the app is the same name that they put down for the delegate booklet. So the example I used was Chris Smith or Christopher Smith. If it's different, our system won't find it. It has to be the same on both. So that's just maybe a wee point to look out for.
They can register, but if they later want to try and connect their PASMA card, it says, sorry, can't find you. Yeah.
Karen, you mentioned taking two pictures for the inspection. Why is it a minimum 2 pictures? Just to explain that,
It's
maybe.
basically just so that we can get in the full image. You can take a front, you can take a side, you can take an angle. What we really want to reiterate here is that we see everything in the picture. And it's so that when the delegate does leave, that they know that that's what they should do. Like Chris had mentioned, it's evidence that when they left the tower, that's where it was. That's the position it was in. Toll boards were on, guardrails were on, everything was there. It's their evidence to show that when they left the tower, it's all there. So 2 pictures, I'm thinking, is a minimum so that they can get used to the idea of taking it and making sure that everything's okay with the tower. They can
Perfect.
prove it later.
I
Okay.
also noticed here a question, can you take a photo and then later add it to TowerSure? I can see where you're coming from because you think, hey, I don't have a connection, but you know what? I'll make a photo here and you know, make a note that I've inspected it, and then once I've got a connection, I put it in. The reason we don't allow people to do that is because we are afraid that we will always see the same picture appear in all the inspections because they just, you know, happen to have that on their phone. So no, we do force people to take a picture with the app there and then as a means of proving that you really stood next to that tower, and that is the tower that you inspected. Not only that, but it is also using geodata where possible to pin that picture with the tower so that that we know the tower is here, the picture belongs to that tower.
Thanks, Maarten. Karen, if the course is delivered on site, does the instructor enter the centre name or the client name?
So it's wherever they are. So they'll enter, when they're doing their demonstration, they'll put the member name in and put the site in where they are. It's basically, that's the record of where it's taken place. So that whole point of creating the site is where the actual inspection took place so that we know exactly where it was.
Okay. And Maarten, we've got a couple of questions, I guess, about the future development of TowerSure. So, for example, someone's asked if facial recognition, to unlock the app rather than putting a password in. Is that something that's possible further down the line?
It is possible. I think that it is more likely that we are going to see whether or not instructors at least can use MyAccessIndustry single sign-on to log into their app. That makes sense. To be fair, if you tick that little box that says keep me logged in, then you don't really need anything to log into your app unless you feel that it is important that information stays secure. Then you can use the facial recognition to lock your phone and unlock your phone and then go to the app. But no direct plans for allowing you to or thumbprint. We're not planning to do that yet, but yeah, we could in the future if there's enough demand for that.
And especially, I guess, if we're coming up against challenges or objections or requests from delegates, we are always interested to hear. We're talking a lot about bugs today, but it's not just bugs we want. We also would like people's input and ideas on how we can improve and
incidentally, the form, sorry, Rhona. Yeah, the form that we just mentioned on the website when you go to towershare.pasma.co.uk is also for suggestions. So if you have a good idea, please let us know. And yes, you will get kudos when we implement something and it was your idea and it was a good one. So please do get us some good ideas for improvements.
And what about instruction manuals, which were available in the older app, and they are available on the website? Do we have plans to add them into TowerSure?
Yeah, in fact, actually, they are on the list of our next version of the app to go in there. But what we are actually thinking is of moving anything useful across from the PASMA app into TowerSure so that we can finally retire that old workhorse that is the PASMA app. That is, and then everything is just available through TowerSure instead.
Brilliant. Karen, I'm just noticing a comment here from someone saying, I don't know if I didn't pick that up necessarily, but I know you said 2 pictures, but they're saying on the video, the Kentech video, they said 1.
1, I know.
Is it 1? Is it 2?
Well, it is 2. The advice that we've given is 2. That video was produced way before we even decided to use the guides or anything like that. So yeah, we are recommending 2.
I think on that one as well, Karen, unless it depends on the floor space that you've got in the training centre, you may have the height, but you might not have the floor space. So people that capture the whole tower in one picture might not be feasible. So yeah, you could probably take a picture of the bottom part of the tower, stabilizers and casters, and then camera angle up and catch the top half of the tower. So that, again, think about it. Other points of that again. Yes, we'd like to see multiple pictures, and as we said earlier on, you could half the group taking the 3T, half the group taking the AGR, and these can also be used for low level as well. So not just for the tower courses, but also be used on low level courses too.
How many pictures have you been taking, Dennis?
I've been taking 2.
Good answer, Dennis. Good answer.
Of course.
In fact,
You have been
it's-
listening very well, Dennis.
I've been taking I've been taking 2, one at 2 meters and then a second one at 4 meters, just
Okay.
to show.
Yeah.
But that's the choice. That's as an instructor.
Well, I
Good.
think, can I come back? One of the questions that was asked maybe earlier on about where TowerSure becomes mandatory to gain the PASMA card. That's where the delegates going to get the PASMA card from there. Contingency plan for such a situation. If they don't have TowerSure, well, the purchase of cards will always be there. So if they want to purchase a physical card, there'll be a cost on beyond the qualification.
Yeah.
Yes, and there are, I think, probably a couple of other questions about virtual cards that I am saving for the 4th of March briefing, because that's when we're going to go into
Yeah.
all things virtual cards
All
in much more
virtual.
detail. So that answers that. We're not taking anything away in any of this. We're adding on different options and we're moving towards more digitalization. But yeah, we'll talk a lot more about virtual cards, or George will, in a couple of weeks' time. Let me see what we've got. So I had a list of questions, now we've got tons more. So Karen, if the delegate is not part of a company, do they have to use the online portal to use the QR code?
They have to be part of a project to use the QR code. So it doesn't matter if they're a part of a company, they can go in. By downloading the app, you get access to the console as well, and you can create your own projects. You can do that yourself. So even if they're a lone ranger, they're out there on their own, they can create their own projects. Once they've done that, added themselves to the project, they can use the QR code. It's just we haven't introduced it into the courses because we felt it was going to be a lot of hassle for you guys to add all the delegates to a project, just like we've done the instructors, to enable them to use the QR code. We're not there yet with it. We will get there, but in the first instance, we just thought use the app, get the 9-digit tower code, and that's fine. That's good enough for the minute.
If I interject, how I've been also pushing it is that when there's a dispute about damage going back to hire companies, they will have 2 photos or many photos of their tower, that how it was assembled and how it looked. Again, it benefits them because they'll have the time and date of when the tower was assembled. That ain't going to change, and it doesn't disappear, and they can send it in.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yep. Chris, could you just clarify for the tape? Are you still doing the PASMA hard copy label as well as the TowerSure app, or is it just one or the other?
I'm under oath here. That's what you said for the tape. I've heard that before. So I think Dennis covered this earlier on. He does both. You can do both. We want you to use TowerSure, but feel free if you want to use both. But think about the consequences of the environment. You're starting to print off additional paper. We don't need to. When you can keep reusing the TowerSure label and have the delegates download the app on their phone. So yeah, if you want to use both, use both. Nobody's going to beat you up on it.
Chris, can I just say, I'm using both because we got to get rid of the whole paperwork. We can't throw it away. We got to use it. So when we've run out, then I'll,
perfect.
I think it's like for everyone, it's not a bad transition move to, do both, and then you're covering yourselves in both. And then when you feel ready as an instructor, and when you're getting more comfortable with how it works, then you can drop the hard copy and just use it as a backup, can't you? Is that reasonable? Yeah.
That is reasonable. As I said, there's lots of training centers that have probably got thousands of packs of delegate booklets that they've got it. You're now saying they're going to throw them away when really they should just use them until they're finished and then move on. They can still record the 9-digit number at somewhere on the paperwork, so they've got the choice then. But there will come a time when they won't have the choice. So again, you got to just manage it.
Yep. And Karen, can I ask you about, so once delegates go back out into the workplace, and that was the last bit you spoke about in these touch points with TowerSure, are we looking at, is PASMA looking to see how many times they're building towers? Because I think we've maybe spoken in the past about longer term plans for using it as CPD, evidence of CPD. Are we currently looking at how many towers they're building? And if so, how many times are we expecting them to log a tower inspection?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it is sitting with the training committee, so I'm going to
Oh, I
pat
knew
that
this
one
was
straight
coming.
to Mr. Smith there.
I knew it was
It is in
coming.
discussion.
Yeah, so this was brought up at previous training committee meeting, and it was brought up at the last training committee meeting on what are the number of tower builds that are required by a candidate over a period of time. We have a working group that we're pulling together to look at this. Is it one a month? Is it one every 2 months? One a year? We need to come up with a definitive answer. And to be honest with you, even that, if it does happen to really extend the validity of the user card, that decision is still to be made as well. By either reducing or extending the validity of the card, that decision has to be made. But we need to start somewhere. And that discussion is currently taking place on how many tower builds, and bearing in mind, although we've expanded the audit team, myself, George, Helen, and Andy are not going to be scrolling through every image of every delegate in the world to make sure that they've built enough towers over a period of time to merit their card to be extended. So, yeah, and again, even if that tower's been built correctly. So there's a lot of stuff that we need to look at there. But yeah, there's ongoing discussions. Thanks for that, Karen. I'll remember that.
You're welcome.
We've had a few people asking about employers' visibility of tower inspections in the records. I guess there's a difference between what they might have visibility of what their employee has done on a training course versus what they might have visibility to what they've done back in the workplace. Maarten, I wonder if you might want to explain to us what employers can see,
Yeah.
and how that works. How can you send over a copy of an inspection record to your manager, for example, and how does that work?
You can. So there is a variety of ways you can do this. So when a delegate comes to a training course, they download the app and they can use it straight away. However, when they do that, and we have made it specifically so it was easy to use during training courses. When they do that, that tower is just in their app. And when they log in the console, which they can, and I've put the address of the console there. So if they go to ria.pasma.co.uk, they can see the tower there as well. But only they can when they log in. Now, if they want to share towers with others, they need to become part. That can only be done through projects. The whole idea behind projects is that is a way of sharing towers. So you can set up an organization in the console, and then you can invite people. You can set up projects, and you can invite people to it, and they can then share their towers that way. Another way of doing it is, say, if a delegate is coming to a training course and they have got the inspection simply in the app, but they want to share it with their employer, they can just download the PDF and stick it in an email, and then they have the inspection too. That's the idea behind the PDF. So yeah, you can share inspections via projects in the console. That is basically for general day-to-day. If you've got a company with multiple tower users, that's the way to do it. All that information, by the way, on how to set it up can be found in TowerSure.pasma.co.uk in the instruction manual. But if you want to externally share an inspection, you do that by means of the PDF download. And I know there was an issue with the PDF download recently, but that has been fixed with the latest versions of the app.
Okay. So that's if you're doing it on a training course, it's just a sort of isolated thing, but once you're back in your workplace, you can be added to projects and sites, and everything becomes much cleverer, much easier to share things Is that, yeah, it's true.
If a delegate happens to be a business owner, then it makes sense to say to the business owner, go to the console, go to the instruction manual, get yourself set up. If the delegate is an employee, tell them to show this to their employer, and help them to set it up, because that is where I think a lot of employers will find TowerSure handy, is that they can really see, they can see that the tower's getting inspected. They can find these towers. They can, keep an eye on how people are keeping safe, and that makes TowerSure even more powerful.
I wonder, can you explain, Maarten, just to stick with you, sorry,
Mm.
why are we not teaching, or why are we not letting delegates demonstrate the QR label on the training courses? Because we just get people saying that it's obviously it's much better. People can check what's happening. Why are we going with a different way
We're
of doing
working
it?
we're working towards that. The original thinking was to keep it simple and leave the whole QR thing out of it. However, to make use of the QR code, at the moment you need to you need to add the tower to a project, which a delegate isn't. But that may well change, because we are starting to look at digitalization. What holds that up is that at the moment we don't know who your delegates are. We are not making a record of their email address and things like that. So it's not possible to automatically, invite them to a training course. But I can see that in the future, and that may not be that far away, is that delegates, we can connect them with the actual training course they are going to, and that therefore the inspections they do are automatically added to that course, which then becomes the project, and that they even automatically get their virtual card. They don't even need to that anymore. All that can be automated. But as I say, that can only happen once we are at the stage where we are going to take, where we're going to record delegates' email addresses, because that's the only way we can identify them on our systems, you see. But we're working on that, and watch this space. There's a lot going on in the background, and that is one of the things that we are trying to figure out, how we can do that smoothly, easily, without causing extra work for our members too. Thanks, Maarten. We've got time for probably a couple more questions. I'll try and pick some quick ones with quick answers. Let's see how I do. Chris, does TowerSure show requirements for 1139 Part 6? I think what we're asking is, during the inspection checklists, are there particular guidance? Is there particular guidance for those types of towers?
Not currently. It's a work in progress. You've probably seen on the video that Steve had done. Sorry,
Yes,
can we
no, on the checklists.
checklists have we got on the checklist, Karen? I thought we
Yes.
just had the towers in there, but
Sorry,
but there's only some of them.
I think once you change the tower type, that will then change the checklist that you're looking at. So that has been updated. I know it wasn't there, but it is now.
All right. Well.
So when you pick your tower type, it's just that we've only demonstrated the mobile access tower and not a cantilever. Or I'll double check about bridging and linked. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I didn't think they were all in there. I just thought
yeah.
you were going to say, there's only some that cantilever and stepped is in there. I don't think we've got linked to, but I could be wrong. I can't remember.
I'll check that out.
What's happened in the last week?
A lot.
Okay. Chris, on the two photo question, can the picture 1 be the 3T tower and picture 2 be an AGR tower?
Provided that the whole tower, including the stabilisers, caster wheels, braces, platforms, guardrails and toe boards, are included, I would say why not? But the functionality there is to take multiple pictures, and it takes a millisecond to press that button, that X or whatever it is in the middle of the plus sign in the middle of the grey box. So, let's say they want to make sure that the picture that you've got has all of the tower in it. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, and it's one inspection per tower.
One inspection per tower, yeah. And as I said earlier on, Ronnie, if you've got a group of 8 people in the course, do half 3T, half AGR.
Yeah, but they would be submitting separate inspections with photos of just the tower that.
Yeah. When they do the paper one currently, we don't ask them to do inspections for multiple towers. We ask them to do an inspection, and they're doing an inspection on one product. So it'd be the same for that. If you want to do both, do both. If you want to do one, do one. You want to split them in half and half, do that.
And Karen, can one person per team record the inspection, or does it need to be every delegate?
It needs to be every delegate. That's the evidence that we've then got that they've completed the inspection. I know they work as a team, but we need them to do it individually so that we can record that they've done an inspection.
Brilliant. Okay, I mean, there are still some outstanding questions which we'll work through, but we got through quite a lot there. That was a good chunk. So thank you to all of our panelists. I'll just hand back over to Chris to wrap up.
Great. Thank you to our speakers today, Karen, Dennis and Maarten, and also for Rhona, who exhausted the questions there in our Q&A session. Although you can't see him, Justin has been working tirelessly in the background today, clicking, and George Lopez has been in there too, uploading some of the questions that you put in the Q&A, you put in the chat and not the Q&A. Today was about reminding you of the date for TowerSure being mandatory in training courses, and that's been pushed back to the 31st of March. So we've covered how to set up a project with the administration teams this morning, and if you haven't been added to a centres project, please ask them, push it back. If you're a freelance instructor, you really want to be getting on to your training centre to ask them to get you added to a project. And remember, if you're a freelance instructor or if you're an instructor that's been on loan, you want the training centre's name, who you're working for, followed by your name, and that way it makes it easier for you to do your recording of your inspection. But remember, at the end of this, when you log out, there's going to be a form there for you to complete on the survey. Every bit of feedback is greatly appreciated, negative or otherwise. We're happy to take it, and I'm pretty thick-skinned, as most of you will know. Our next briefing will take place on the 4th of March. That will be hosted by myself. I will also include George Lopez and Maarten de Vries. And with that, I bid you farewell and thank you for attending.